latest in tech and accessibility. This is Access Tech Live with Scott and Marc Aflalo.
Welcome back to the show. Now, Apple has made headlines this week, of course, with the new M3 chips, but it continues to make waves with new accessibility features in all of its latest operating systems. And we have the pleasure of welcoming Apple's Senior Director of Global Accessibility Policy and Initiatives, Sarah Herrlinger, to the show. I'll just kick off by saying welcome to our brand new show, Access Tech Live on AMI.
I am so excited to be here. Congratulations on this new platform and new opportunity.
Thank you very much, and it is great to have you here and talking all things Apple. Now, it's been a quiet few weeks, so not a lot to talk about, Sarah. I mean, we could probably wrap this up in a few minutes. You could get an early finish, right?
Oh, Stephen, if only. At Apple, we're always moving forward.
Yeah, and we have lots to talk about. I want to dive right in because, of course, everyone's talking about the iPhone 15. Oh, that action button. I am so pleased to hear about the action button. What are you going to use your action button for, or what are you currently using it for?
I have been playing around a little bit and trying out different things. So I have used it for its sort of default of turning the volume on and off. I've used it for the camera. I'm going to try out the flashlight, and then I'm going to, figure out my favorite accessibility feature and probably keep it there for the long run.
That is what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about all the detection features under Magnifier that I could just have at my hand. So that is absolutely fantastic, yeah. Lots of people are excited, of course, about the action button and indeed iPhone 15. And of course, again, lots and lots of interesting accessibility features to talk to you about. Let's dive right in with, I think live speech is a really interesting area for a lot of people. Of course, personal voice caught the headlines earlier in the year. Everyone is interested in this, of course, with the rise of artificial intelligence, more and more of it coming in on our products. Tell us about live speech, though, and what it does.
Yeah, so live speech is a feature that's built to support individuals who are non-speaking. And the idea behind it is that it is the ability to be able to type whatever you want to say. So you can seamlessly in-person conversations on a phone or FaceTime call, or when you're, with someone in the moment, just be able to type out what you want to say, and then it will voice that out of the iPhone or the iPad or the Mac.
Yeah, well, absolutely. We'll come to the Mac because, yeah, personal voice is another interesting area, of course, and it's, I guess, tied in, isn't it? Because this is about creating your own voice. You can, of course, use live speech with any synthesized voice, but personal speech does exactly that. It makes it personal to the individual.
Yeah, and that's something we're really excited about. When you think about the fact that even just in one community, for individuals who have been recently diagnosed with ALS, 1 in 3 of those individuals has a chance of losing their ability to speak. So we know there are many people out there who, over time, for things like, throat, tongue cancers, all kinds of different things, may lose that ability to speak. And so this is an opportunity to be able to create your voice on your iPhone, your iPad, or your Mac. And the idea behind it is we've tried to make it as simple and easy and, in a very Apple way, private for you. It takes about 15 minutes of time. You just hold your iPhone about 6 to 10 inches from your mouth. You're presented with a whole bunch of randomly delivered phrases. So you would read through all of those. And one of the things that we really tried to do as we put this together was to work with the ALS community and find out what are some of the things that were most important for them. So there's some little nuanced things about this. For example, you don't have to do that 15 minutes all at once. You can do a few minutes, and if you get tired, stop and come back to it. We also do it in a way that as you complete one of those phrases, you don't have to tap the screen to move to the next one. It understands that you're done and moves on its own, so that if you have low muscle strength and it would be difficult to have to tap the screen each time, you can avoid doing that. But once you've done that 15 minutes of time of material, if you leave your device overnight, it does on-device processing of that voice and is available to you then the next morning. And I think that on-device part is important as well. Once again, since privacy is important to us, this is something that doesn't go to Apple. It doesn't go up onto a server. It's your voice available for you.
Yeah, and that privacy part, that is really important, isn't it? Because there are other services available that are currently in use today where, you can upload your own voice to, but, the data, the question about where the data goes is still out there. Whereas with Apple, what you're saying is that it's on device. And also, this is really important, when you're saying those phrases, when you're reading out these phrases, it's phrases that they don't often make much sense, do they? And that's the point, right? That you don't want to be saying things that would be obvious that and then therefore anybody could ask you to say and then recreate your voice. So, you've even considered that aspect. And like you say, 15 minutes, what is it, 150 phrases or so you have to complete? That's quite a lot. And again, it embeds that privacy.
Yep. Yeah, we just, in a very Apple way, we wanted to try and make this as simple and easy, relevant to the individuals who need it, but done in a way that makes them feel safe in what they're doing.
So my wife and I buy a new microwave, and we're really excited about our microwaves because, well, we can't be bothered cooking for real. So, we decided we'd get a microwave, and of course, it's not accessible. There are lots of buttons on it, and I don't know what they are. And all of a sudden I hear about, when it was announced, of course, on Global Accessibility Awareness Day, Point and Speak. Now, for those who don't know, explain Point and Speak, and this will probably explain to you, viewer, why I'm so excited.
All right, well, before I do that, I'm going to back up just slightly to give a little bit more context to answer this question. And I would also say, who doesn't love a good microwave? So kudos to you for getting a new one. Within the Apple devices, there is an app called Magnifier. And with Magnifier, it does a lot of things. At its absolute sort of bare minimum, it is a magnifier to allow you to zoom in on physical objects around you. And so you could, the serial number on the back of a device or a tiny thing on a medication bottle. And it can also do things by adding color filters, light with a flashlight, things like that. But within Magnifier, we also have a part that's called detection mode. And we added in detection mode in iOS 16 and iPadOS 16 as part of that Magnifier app. And it uses information from the camera and the LiDAR scanner and on-device machine learning to do a lot of really cool things. Now, there are 5 different features in detection mode that you can use all of them together. And the first one is something we actually introduced a couple of years ago called people detection, which helps you identify how far you're standing from a person. There's also door detection that helps you navigate the last few feet of your destination by telling you how far you are from a door and attributes about that door so you know what you're doing. And then scene description, which describes objects and things around you. And then the fourth is a new one that's called text detection, which speaks aloud any text on a document or a piece of mail or things like that around you. And then this gets us to our 5th element, which I'm really excited about, as I know you are, which is called Point and Speak. And so Point and Speak allows you to identify text on objects that you point to and read it out loud. So literally by pointing at the buttons on the microwave, it will tell you and read out that label. So you understand whether it's the number pad or the start button or popcorn, pizza, whatever it might be, giving you more ways to be able to interact with that device and feel confident in how you're doing it.
Yeah, rather than just where's the start, where's the stop, how far do I have to turn to get to 5 minutes, and actually not knowing about all of the other features, right? It actually makes the device more available to you. Such a simple feature, but it's so powerful, like all of these features we're talking about. Another, which is again, and I've heard mixed opinions about who this is for. I have a range of views myself, I'm sure you do, but I want to talk about Assistive Access, which when I heard about it, I was so excited to hear about this feature because ultimately this is a feature that simplifies the layout, the design of the phone to make it easier to navigate. Now, this can benefit a lot of people. I'm not one of those people, Sarah, who says it's great for older people, because I think older people know their way around tech fine. I do think, though, this is for a lot of people who could really benefit from a much simpler, cleaner environment, including people like me who use VoiceOver, who are blind. So, you know, there's lots of applications here. But what's interesting is that a lot of people are maybe going to benefit from this most on the iPad. Tell us about people who use the iPad with disabilities, because, of course, that is another area of growth, right?
Yeah, well, I think, you know, one of the things that's important to us as we do our work is to understand that, you know, the term disability covers a lot of different areas. There is no one single thing out there. And so we spend a lot of time really trying to build technology for very distinct groups, which may have applicability across other ones, but really there's always a focus in what we do. And with a feature like Assistive Access, we've built this to be an essential tool for individuals with intellectual and developmental delays, as well as their caretakers. And the idea here is that you can customize a device to be able to kind of work with the distinct and in some cases, you know, evolving needs of someone with an intellectual or cognitive disability. It's a simplified, focused interface that people can use to do what they love. And the idea behind it is it's built with much larger text, more focused choices, and really deep customization. Now, in our work in this, we've really focused this in on a few key areas. It starts with the home screen, but it also carries through to a series of apps that we focused on. One is called Calls, which is a merging of the phone app and the FaceTime app, essentially, to be a way that individuals can really get, you know, big buttons and images on the screen to be able to contact, for example, mom and dad, and really just sort of simplify things so it's just the individuals that are most important for that person to be able to contact. And then if they tap on one of those, they can choose whether they want to do a video call or an audio call. We also use this to do, you know, more tailored UIs for messages, photos, camera, and the music app, because we know that those are all some of the apps that are most used by, you know, everyone. But within these communities, they're great ways to be able to stay connected, to be creative, to be collaborative, and kind of, you know, have those elements that you really want in your life. And, you know, you mentioned this for iPad. That larger screen size can be really beneficial for individuals who want to have that very simplified, easy, larger text, all of those things that are so beneficial for someone who might have a cognitive or developmental delay. And, you know, that's obviously different from what we often find in the blind community, who benefits from a smaller screen and doesn't need that real estate. For this community, it's something that really is a great asset.
Yeah, that's a really good point. But, you know, I love the fact we're talking about simplifying, but not limiting. In no way are you limited by this. In fact, if anything, it allows you to grow more with your device. So some people who might use it as a way to get into iPhone or iPad may find it that eventually they decide to try it without assistive access and actually get on okay. Again, that's the joy of all of these features. You know, they're not locked away in a box that you need a special disability key to get into. They're for everyone. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
I love that. The Mac obviously is a fantastic product, and it has huge accessibility capabilities as well, and a number of similar accessibility features to what's on iPhone. Some people might not realize that. In those accessibility settings, there's lots in there. Live speech is in there. If you've got an M series Mac, a Silicon series Mac, you will be able to use personal voice as well. But another area which is, of course, incredibly powerful for the deaf community is the MFI hearing aid capability, the Bluetooth hearing aid connectivity. That is something I know that Apple has been very keen to improve upon, and you've done that this year with Mac now.
Yeah, Yeah, I think, touching on a couple things you said in there, absolutely. There's so many great features in the accessibility settings on the Mac as well as in the other areas. Any of our devices, if you go in, the amount of opportunities to be able to customize how you use your device, quite frankly, whether you self-identify as having a disability or not, is huge. There's so many things you can do. And so I encourage everyone to go into the accessibility settings on any of your devices and just play around a little bit and figure out how that customization might benefit you. But yes, with the MFI Hearing Devices program, now we launched this years ago. Our first foray was back in 2014 in launching the program, and we saw our first devices come online then, and what that allowed was for direct streaming between an iOS device and a hearing aid or a cochlear implant. And it gave crystal clear sound. It gave a lot of ways that you could control your devices from your Apple device, all kinds of things we did. Through the years, we've grown that program to support bidirectional hearing aids, things like that. So this year, we're really excited that we are now able to support those MFI hearing aids with our Macs. And I think this is going to be huge. When you think about so many people who use their Mac for productivity, who will now be able to use their hearing device as they would any other audio format and be able to just connect directly and get great sound, great functionality right from that. So we're super excited for this to come with Sonoma. It's something that does work with with the bidirectional hearing aids that are made by our partners and with any of our M2 Macs. So some really great opportunities there.
Yeah, and a feature which again is available across a number of devices, but I wanted to mention it specifically on Apple TV because I am someone who suffers greatly with light sensitivity, and it's just getting worse and worse. And it's never easy being someone who's light sensitive and their job is to sit in front of bright lights all day. But it's a hard life. I'll get over it. But honestly, the dim flashing lights feature, which came onto Apple TV and also to the iPhone and I guess other products as well, it's such, again, a simple feature, but a very powerful feature. I've been using adaptive audio on my AirPods Pro 2, which really dulls the sound of loud noises. And this, in a way, does the same for many people who, like me, have light sensitivity, but of course, people who are epileptic. They can benefit now from not having that fear when someone says, warning, flash photography. Yeah. The screen will dim now. The screen will actually dim if it senses those bright lights. That's another incredible feature.
Yeah, it is. It's something we're very excited to support individuals for whom that element around light sensitivity is an important deal for them. It does automatically just darken the display of video during sequences of flashing lights. So it's not that it stops it or, takes you out of the moment. It just kind of makes all of that darker and less movement so that you can bypass that without that, and helping to support that sensitivity.
And we've talked before about the subject of support and people getting in touch and feedback, and I know that you guys at Apple always welcome more feedback, and I just wanted to give you an opportunity to tell people the ways that people can get in touch with Apple if they have a comment or a query about an Apple product or service.
Absolutely. The more feedback, the better. We definitely encourage people to connect with us. We've had, as one example, we've had an email address, which is accessibility@apple.com, which has been a public-facing email address for, almost 20 years, maybe over 20 years. I will admit it probably predates me, and I've been here 20 years. So it's certainly been something that has been out there for a long time and something that we really love, that we get tons of feedback in every day from people who are asking us questions, reporting bugs, letting us know when there might be, something that based on their specific disability or maybe mix of disabilities that they can do one thing, but they can't quite do something else. And we take all of that and it is sent to our engineering teams. We file it all as bugs and make sure that the appropriate teams within Apple see those issues and work to address them. So I always want people to write to us at accessibility@apple.com. But we have other things. One of the other ones to bring up for anyone who might be a member of the deaf community and communicates using sign language, we also have a service called Sign Time, which kind of does two things. It connects customers with one-on-one language interpreting for shopping and support sessions when you're in Apple Care or retail customer support online, or it also supports individuals when they go into our Apple Store locations. So you can go into an Apple Store and tell someone there that you would like to communicate with sign language, and that employee can bring up an app in store which will allow you to be able to communicate with a sign language interpreter through an app without having to book that ahead of time, just being able to come in and use it. And we have this available in many different versions of sign language across the globe. We have this in the US, Canada, UK, France, Japan, let me see if I've got all these, Australia, Germany, Italy, I think Spain and South Korea. That probably covers it. But so it's something that we've really built to be global, understanding that we have customers in the deaf community all over the globe who want to be able to interact with us in the way that works best from them. So this is just another option.
Yeah, and I heard a story just recently. I saw a comment on Twitter, I think it was, or X, as they call it these days, and it was talking about someone who'd gone into a store. I think the person was trading in, and they traded something in, and they said the person who served them was blind. And he was amazed. Not that a blind person could do a job, but the fact that the blind person was using the same equipment as everyone else, doing the job like everyone else. And that's really empowering, right? So it's not just the technology, is it? You're bringing people in from the community. And of course, that can encourage other people going into store as well to get support on voiceover, for example, if someone's blind, or a different product or service, depending on their disability.
Absolutely. I think our key goal with it is to, hire the best people for the jobs that we need them for, whether that's in a retail store or in corporate or wherever it might be, and then empower and enable them to do their jobs just like everybody else. And I think by being a company that is creating its own hardware, software, and operating systems, we really do work to infuse that in everywhere we can, so that whether it's inside our own offices or outside in the world, people feel comfortable and capable, and that they're given the opportunity to shine, to be their best.
You say you've been at Apple for 20 years. I don't feel that old personally, so I can say that I've been around a few years, and I remember using my Apple LC2 back at school and playing around with the Newton message pad and all that stuff and thinking, wow, this is incredible. Accessibility has come on leaps and bounds, hasn't it? I mean, in your time, you must have seen so much change, so much improvement over the years.
Yes, I think, even for me, 20 years feels impossible. I would like to say, gosh, I probably started here when I was 4, but that is clearly not the truth. But yeah, I think I've seen amazing things happen, but I think that the core for me about being here at this company, at Apple, is from the minute that I first engaged on accessibility, it was clear to me that it is a value. It is a belief that accessibility is a basic human right. And that is something that has, never stopped in all my time here. For the work that we do, there is an understanding and a commitment and a drive from every Apple employee to want to do more in this area. And I think as part of that, we always we want to be the ripple in the pond. We want to have what we do hopefully inspire others to understand the importance and to do it as well. And I feel like, over time I've been able to see a lot go on in the world around me, as well as more people in the community, I think, have found their voice and been more vocal in what's important to them. And that in itself has helped create that ripple to get more to happen. So I think the more that we see the communities engage and do more amazing things, it's just, the snowball is rolling down that hill and growing every minute.
Sarah Herrlinger, thank you so much for coming back on, and come back soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Apple's Senior Director of Global Accessibility Policy and Initiatives, Sarah Herrlinger. The email address she gave out again, Stephen, is for accessibility is accessibility@apple.com. So you can use that if you've got any concerns whatsoever. Right, Stephen?
Absolutely. You know what other show on the planet gives this much time to accessibility, Mark?
Well, isn't this the point of existing, isn't it, for us?
Yeah.
Coming up, we're going to review your responses to our question of the day. What one piece of movie tech from our past do you wish came true? We've got a lot of responses, so stick around. This is Access Tech Live.
We want to hear from you. Follow us on social media and get involved at Access Tech Live. We'll be right back.